about 5, 6 minutes. So been a long time since I've done a space. This is fun. I've got no glitches so far, but I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed on that one.
Since you said it,
Yeah, I
it's
think.
like it's like when there's no traffic and you're like, "Oh, look, great, there's no traffic. Here we go, traffic."
Yeah, but just a little bit of background. Like I don't know, a lot of people may not know this. I moved to Washington in January when Trump took over, and just seeing things play out here firsthand, like the big beautiful bill and everything, how they were passing that, and the amount of work that went into that. I definitely, I have a lot of respect for the way that the administration was able to push that through. But man, I'm so sick of walking around this place and only seeing lobbyists everywhere. That is the majority of the time. It's not. They're like little leeches. They're just everywhere. And I can't exaggerate that. It's wild. If you spent any time on the Hill at all, those are the people that there are more lobbyists here than tourists. So it's a pretty sick environment, and that's something that I personally want to challenge pretty head on. But the approval rating of lobbyists is probably higher than the Democrat Party right now, though, at least. All right, hang on. I'm trying to send the invite to Speaker Johnson at this moment here.
Guys, make sure you repost the space everywhere so that everybody can hear from the Speaker of the House. Don't worry, Nick, I got you, bro. Make sure you repost the space everywhere. This is actually pretty historic for to have the Speaker of the House come in to an X space and speak directly to each and every one of us. So, Nick, thank you for hosting. Thanks for setting this up. I know you spend more time on the Hill than any of us would ever want to. Uh, as somebody who's been there, it's absolutely the worst. Watching everybody power jockey. So let's get everybody in here, and yeah, man, let's get some good questions for the speaker. It's great that we can finally do this. Could you imagine John Boehner and Nancy Pelosi coming in and doing this? So I know people get a lot of criticisms for Speaker Johnson, but for him to take time out of the day to jump into this new media space is pretty awesome. So let's get let's make it big. And it's nice to have Americans talking American politics, which doesn't happen a lot in X space. I know that is a wild conundrum to have Americans talking American politics. I'm not taking a dig at anybody. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I was just thinking about Nancy Pelosi trying to do a space and just flinging her hands around and like throwing the phone across the room like an errant Wii controller.
Yeah, I don't know if she's too capable of throwing anything anymore. I mean, I see Nancy Pelosi is one of the only people that I've tried to do an interview with on the street here here at the Capitol. But her Capitol Police detail is the most aggressive out of anybody's that I've seen so far. It's like I don't know. They're brash. I'm not going to say that they're like they hit me or whatever, but they'll definitely shove me. So it's like, yeah, I can't get anywhere close to Nancy Pelosi. She's probably got 10 or 12 Capitol Police officers around her at any given time. You can't get anywhere close to Nancy Pelosi, and it's not very good video if I just sit there and shout at her because she's what freaking 112 years old. She probably didn't hear me anyway. So it's like, well, whatever. I mean, she is shielded from everything, including questions at this point. It reminds me every time I see her, every time I see somebody like Maxine Waters, that this place it seems to just be one big retirement home, which is a problem in and of itself. So, um, but anyway, hold on. So I'm trying to bring. Okay, yeah, that's not going through for some reason. Here, hold down the for a second, guys.
So I was gonna say, Nick, I whenever I imagine DC, that's what I imagine is like an old folks home, like just a bunch of older people walking around with like their little walkers and canes and like poor little McConnell, like just barely moping along. That's what I envision whenever I think of DC. Is that kind of what it looks like?
Yeah, unfortunately, you're not too far off. If you get somebody like Jerry Nadler walking around, you'll get like an old person stench too. I mean, Mandy, I know you're a nurse, work in a
It's a little
hospital. You
poopy.
probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's a little poopy, Mandy. Like when you go down the Alzheimer's ward. It just smells a little poopy.
That's exactly what I envisioned DC to smell like, an old folks' home with, like, these cute little old people who are just, ruling our country.
Smells like mothballs and stock trades.
Yeah.
You forgot
But
poopy,
guys, I
little
just want to
poopy.
remind you, put in the bottom right hand corner, there's a very, very pressing question that you may have. A lot of them are the same. It seems like most people are on the same page with the questions that they want to be asked. Some of them I've seen have been asked before, and I'm trying to go more than just what the legacy media will do. They're like what, freaking 120 of them walking around the Capitol at any given time, and they all ask the same questions every single time. And it's just it's not interesting, and you don't get anything out of it. So we're trying to do this a little bit differently. A lot of the questions that they ask aren't questions that the people are asking. It's what their legacy media bosses are telling them to ask. So this is more of a people oriented space. That's why all the questions that we're asking today were actually sourced from the comment section on the previous post that I made. But anyone that you could have further, definitely put them down in the bottom right hand corner. Like a couple of minutes out at this point, and as soon as the speaker gets on here, I'll do an introduction and we'll jump right into it. But in the meantime, we really appreciate if you could share the space. This is again the first time that the Speaker of the House has ever done a space. Any Speaker of the House has ever done a space. I'm just genuinely surprised that it's actually happening. So I respect the hell out of them for doing it and for taking it on. So, but anyway, at the moment, oh, so we have Deborah Lee up here now. Deborah, I see you've been making some rounds on Fox recently. How's it been?
Hey, it's been great. I'm actually in Washington Square Park right now filming Man on the Street content, and you would not believe half of the things that these individuals spew. 9/11 is justified. Trump's a dictator. A dictator can win with the popular vote. They're still a dictator. People are just crazy
What is
nowadays,
this
but
place? It's Washington Square Park, right? It's in New York City. Why is this always
it's
the
the most
site of
liberal park.
degeneracy?
It's because it's right near all the colleges downtown. It's like very liberal arts, transgender, LGBTQ home, druggies. It's just really like the epitome of that. And it's a great way to find people who have the most wild takes, but a lot of Americans actually do agree with them, which is crazy. So we're trying to expose them and educate them, and it's going well. And I'm just excited to be a part of this. I've had a few wonderful meetings with Speaker Johnson, and I think it's amazing. And he's done an absolute incredible job as the speaker thus far. So it's really awesome that he's taking time out of his busy day to come and answer our questions.
Yeah, and Brixton, I know you are around in DC. I won't tell everybody exactly where you are, but before that, because we got like one more minute here, so I want to just I want to toss to Sean real quick. Sean Hendricks, who's up here, because Sean is the man in Western North Carolina. I mean, doing incredible work for the people after Hurricane Helene out there. I was out down there on the ground with the guy. He's a freaking miracle worker, and it's always an honor to have Sean around. So, Sean, welcome.
Gosh, you're too nice. I'm just excited to see politicians here on X and just know that they actually read all of my crazy rants, and maybe they'll actually listen. But so, today I know there's a lot to talk about, but if you guys follow me at all, I'm harping on chemical company immunity right now. I would love to hear from someone in top leadership their opinion on why we should give immunity to chemical companies. Like, that's just what's on my mind right now.
All right. Okay. Well, it looks like there was a little bit of a glitch there. Try and get the speaker up here. Anyway, yeah, all this stuff is done. I don't know if anybody here. I mean, I know there are some spaces hosts in the comment section, and yeah, you kind of know how the glitches are with some of these spaces sometimes. Let's see. All right, it says he's requesting. Hang on. Somebody fill the air for a minute. Help me out. I'm trying to find Johnson here. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. There we go. All right, Speaker Mike Johnson, it is such an honor and a pleasure to have you here on X Spaces with us. I sent you a co-host invite that'll bump you all the way up to the top if you guys can accept that. I know it's your first time, so yeah, I'll let you get settled a little bit here first. But you can unmute right there in that bottom left-hand corner, the little microphone button. It'll turn purple and say mic is
Got
on.
it. Okay. Didn't realize I was muted. Sorry, brother.
It's good. Welcome to the stage, Speaker Johnson. Really a pleasure to have you, sir.
Glad to be with you, man. Really appreciate the time.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll go ahead and I don't want to take too much of your time up today. I know it's a pretty hectic schedule up there, so we'll just go ahead and jump right into the questions here. And I'm gonna toss it off to GuntherEagleman first for the first question. Gunther, welcome to the stage. What do you have for Speaker Mike Johnson?
Hey, thank you, Nick, for having me. Speaker Johnson, great that you're here and getting your feet wet in spaces. Um, I know I've been pretty harsh in your replies for the last couple of years, but I still appreciate you being
I
here.
appreciate you, brother.
Um,
I'm a fan. I mean, you gotta go light on me, man. Give me a break sometime.
I love. Well, I wasn't sure if you were reading them or if it was your staff
No, I
member.
see them, dude. You're everywhere. You're everywhere.
I got you. I got you. Hey, real quick question. I'll keep it simple. I do have a bunch of questions in my mind, but I know your time is limited. And a lot of the people who were DMing me, knowing I was coming on, would really like to know, since they have to work year round, why the 6-week recess right now?
You know what? Thank you for the question. It just drives me crazy when people call August recess. It's a district work period. So the way this works in Congress, this is a tradition that goes back on the congressional calendar for many generations. There has to be a period during the calendar year, because Congress is in session year round, to go back home and really focus on constituents. You got to go be with your people. And August has traditionally been that period over the generations because it's so hot in DC. They thought it was a good time to break. That's why it falls in August. So what it's never been more important than it is right now, Gunther, for us as Republicans. And here's the reason why. We know that the Democrats and the mainstream media and all the left is engaging in this massive campaign of misinformation about what we're doing here on the Hill. The big beautiful bill, is the subject of all of their crazy talking points. And of course, they're very methodical about it. They're very consistent, and they're out trying to convince people of something that is just simply not true. So we've got to get our members, all the House Republicans, out into the field. They got to go to their people, go to the town halls, go to the business roundtables, go meet with big groups and small groups of their constituents to tell them the truth, because the truth is on our side, and we can't wait to go sell that product.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so Speaker Johnson, talking about this recess coming up, obviously, I'm sure you probably saw this headline in in the New York Times, for example. And I don't give credence to these sort of headlines very often, and it pains me to even have to read it to you. But they are accusing you of cutting short business in the House to avoid voting on releasing the Epstein files. What is that about?
Yeah, it's an absolute lie. Thank you for asking that. They were forced today, by the way, to change the headline because it just simply wasn't true. But the problem is, of course, the initial lie always travels faster than the correction. So we're out. I've done 2 press conferences today already, trying to explain the truth. Look, the legislative calendar has been set and widely published since December of 2024. Okay, we put out the calendar a year in advance, or for the year. And so we were never scheduled to be in session on Friday. We're in session today and tomorrow. There's committees with 10 different committees. They're doing markups of legislation. We're having votes, doing all the normal stuff. And so the House Republicans are heading back to their districts tomorrow to do that district work period, and that's really important. But the reason the Times was forced to change the headline is because it was completely false. There is nobody in Congress, quote, blocking Epstein documents. It's nonsense. What we're doing as the House Republican majority, and my job as Speaker, is to not allow the far left Democrats to make a mockery of our Rules Committee proceedings and our regular committee proceedings. We're just not going to allow them the platform to engage in this charade. By the way, look, this is really important. These Democrats are trying to weaponize the Epstein issue because they see a wedge. They don't have anything to run on. They got no policies, no platform they can stand on, no leader of the party. All they can do is engage in this. And Democrats said nothing and did nothing whatsoever about transparency. for the entire 4 years of the Biden presidency. Guys, remember, the Biden DOJ had the Epstein files for 4 years. Not a single one of these guys who are now suddenly pretending that they care said a word about it. And by the way, this is also the same party. They're lecturing us on transparency right now. Remember, they orchestrated one of the most shameless, dangerous political cover-ups in the history of the United States. That was President Biden's obvious mental decline. So they got nothing to say. The House Republicans for maximum transparency and truth. We're in lockstep with President Trump and his administration. We are pushing for all the Epstein credible information to be released so the American people can make their decision. And we've been in-election consistent about that from day one.
Okay, and then on that topic as well, you've also saw earlier this week, I believe one of the committees, the Oversight Committee, actually moved forward with subpoenaing Ghislaine Maxwell. What are you guys hoping to get out of that?
Well, facts, right? But there is a caveat. I mean, by the way, the administration through the DOJ has also wanted to talk with her. But the concern we have, of course, is that can she be relied upon as a credible witness? I mean, I used to be a litigator. You know, you would evaluate the witness before you put him on the stand. What is Ghislaine Maxwell's incentive to tell the truth? I mean, she's a cover-up artist. I mean, literally, she's like the expert in it. Unspeakable evils of human trafficking and underage girls and all the rest. Can she be relied upon to suddenly raise her hand and take an oath and tell us the truth? I mean, I'm a little skeptical about that, right? And what is her incentive? She's been sentenced to a long prison sentence. I mean, why wouldn't she just get on the stand and try to lob a grenade into the middle of this? But, you know, that said, we have a responsibility. We have a commitment to follow the truth, seek the truth, and follow it wherever it leads. And so she's, you know, I guess a necessary voice to hear from. So I trust my committee chairman, Jamie Comer, is the chair of House Oversight, as you know, is a dear friend, and he has great judgment, and he's assessed that they need to do that. And I'm fully supportive of it. But we all know going in that this is a little bit of a roll of the dice.
Yeah, so one of your biggest jobs as Speaker of the House, obviously, is trying to maintain that House majority in 2026. And it looks like your margin just got even more razor thin by losing Representative Green out of Tennessee, who resigned last week. So I want to toss to Deborah Lee on that, because Deborah, I'm seeing people ask a similar question in the comments section that you and I talked about earlier. And I want you to ask that to Speaker Johnson.
Yes. Hi, Speaker Johnson. Thank you so much for doing this. It's a true pleasure to have you in the
Deborah might
media.
be on mute. I don't know.
Can you hear me?
I guess the speaker can't hear Deborah.
Right. Oh, no.
Oh, well, that's kind of disappointing. Okay, well, I'm going to have to ask your question for you at this point. I don't remember exactly what the question was, but I'll ask a different form of it, I guess.
Okay.
So Speaker Johnson, coming up in 2026, you have the midterm elections. It typically, historically anyway, there's a pretty large chance that you lose the majority in the midterm elections, correct? So
that's right. Yeah.
What's the plan here? Is there anything that we can do in terms of redistricting to, in say Texas or another red state, and potentially even take illegals out of the count by that time?
Yeah, great question. Let me tell you something. I'm completely bullish on the midterm election in fall of 2026, and there's a couple of reasons why. You're right, by the way, Nick. I mean, it is a historic anomaly to win and grow the majority for a president. So in over history, it's only happened a couple of times in about the last 90 years when a sitting president has picked up seats for his party in that first 2-year cycle. Lots of reasons for that. But we're going to break that trend. We're going to defy history, as this group does, and we're going to grow the House Republican majority in 26. Couple of quick reasons why, and your indication there is part of this. Number one, we had a historic demographic shift in 2024 because of President Trump's coattails and the message of House Republicans. We went out and we were evangelizing the truth. We were drawing a contrast between us and the Democrats. You know what? We got a historic demographic shift. We got a record number of Hispanic and Latino voters, for example, Black and African American voters, Jewish voters, union workers, these people that came to the party. And right now we're in the process of demonstrating for them that they made the right choice, because the big beautiful bill, for example, is going to allow their income to rise. It's going to allow their taxes to go down. They're going to have more safer streets, all these things, and they'll reward us for that in 26 because we did the bill so quickly. They'll be able to feel the effects before they vote. That's one reason. The second reason is, providentially, my friend, we have the most favorable election map that we have faced in decades. What I mean by that is, as we're talking this morning, there are 13 House Democrats sitting in districts that Trump won There's another 21 House Dems sitting in districts he came within 5 points of winning. And conversely, there's only 3 House Republicans in districts that Kamala Harris won. So what that means to us is you got an offensive opportunity. We're going to go out and target those seats, flip blue seats to red, and we're going to grow this majority. Now, voter ID is a big part of that. Like, voter integrity is a critical priority for our side. We're working at the state level all across the map because elections, as you know, are the purview of the states. But we're pressing that hard, and redistricting may be a part of it. You see, in the state of Texas, they're going in for a special session right now to draw the lines that are fair and equitable. And guess what? We might wind up with a couple of extra Republican seats over that. We're going to follow the law because we're the rule of law team, but the law's on our side. We're very optimistic about what's ahead.
Okay, and going back to the August recess question here, what will you personally be doing? What's in the works with you during that month of August to maintain the majority and grow the majority? What's on your calendar?
Yeah, great question. I will tell you the honest truth. I became speaker on October 25th of 2023, and I have been in fifth gear ever since. I mean, this job, the modern speakership, is a ridiculous set of responsibilities, and there's no downtime at all. You can't take down any downtime. So in August, what I'll be doing, I'm going to spend as many days as possible in my own district in Louisiana's 4th Congressional, because those are the people that keep sending me back. But every moment that I'm not there, I've got to be on the road because the speaker's in charge of the whole map. So I'll be traveling around the country, campaigning, raising the necessary funds to ensure that we win that and grow that House majority in the fall of next year. I've got to raise an estimated $330 million between now and then, and that takes a lot of time and effort to do it. We'll be going around and I'll be going to the districts where we have the most vulnerable Republicans in the tightest districts for reelection and campaigning with them, but also going out and doing some candidate recruitment, because in those seats that we're going to flip from blue to red, we're narrowing it down in many of those cases to the top candidates. I got to go sit down with them and kind of help vet those candidates and make sure we have the right people on the ballot who can win. So lots on the plate. There'll be a lot going on. We can't rest. We're going to run right through the tape. My wife and I decided this is a season of just kind of extreme service and sacrifice, and so we accept that willingly. It's our honor to serve, but it's a full-time job, man. There ain't no downtime in this gig.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the questions that a lot of people are asking nowadays as well is, we've seen this investigation going on within Congress into the Biden, both the auto pen scandal and the cognitive decline scandal and that cover up. And we've seen everybody come before Congress right now. So far, they've all pled the fifth. What can be done at that point? I mean, at some point, can somebody be granted immunity to be able to extract information and have them, blow the whole plot open? Like, is that in the cards? What are the next steps here to make sure that this doesn't go away? Obviously, the people are demanding accountability for this. We were duped, Speaker Johnson. You know that. You were duped too. I mean, the way that they lied to you about it. So, what can be done next? How do we make sure these people are going to be held accountable? And what sort of reassurances can you give to the audience here?
Speaker Johnson, I think
Yeah, you're muted. Bottom left.
Sorry.
Okay.
Drop the phone there. Listen, this is a great frustration to us. When witnesses come in and take the fifth, they take a knee. It greatly hinders our ability to get to the facts quickly. But we are not giving up. We cannot. We have to dig as aggressively as possible and use every tool in our arsenal to get to the facts. We owe that to the people. They did dupe all of us. I mean, we knew it instinctively. We knew this was the greatest political cover-up, but no one understood the extent of it and how broad it was. There's a lot of accountability that is due. And so what we're looking at, brainstorming, trying to sit down with our legal counsel and everybody here. I'm one of them. I used to be a litigator. I mean, I know the rules. We're trying to dig in and find any way that we can get to that evidence. Maybe there are some agreements made in terms of immunity. I'm not sure. We have to figure that out. But we have a very aggressive Department of Justice as well as a partner in this, and they're committed to finding the truth and digging in. You obviously have a very committed commander-in-chief. The president is very public about this, and privately he echoes that same concern. We're laser focused on it. So you're going to see House Republicans digging in, using every tool in the arsenal and creating new ones when we can, okay? Because we have to show the people what happened to ensure that it can never, ever happen again. This is profound. I mean, it changed the trajectory of our country. And the Russia collusion hoax had an impact on the election cycle, that next cycle. Probably changed the outcome, and we all know that we're living with the devastating effects of that. So it will never stop. We will never cease in our quest for the information, and even if the witnesses come in and take the fifth, we're not going to be satisfied with that. We're going to keep digging, and we will.
Yes, so Speaker Johnson, I know time's running out here, so I want to I want to sort of give people an insight into what your day to day looks like. It's, running around the Capitol complex here. It's pretty big. If people who haven't been here, I would say you should probably visit. You probably don't want to live here, but visit one or two times. What does it look like? I've heard reports that you'd probably be considered a mental health counselor at this point, right? Dealing with some of these
Yeah.
people. What does day to day look like at the Capitol as the Speaker of the House?
Well, Newt Gingrich wrote an op-ed early in middle part of last year, and he said Speaker Johnson has the most challenging speakership since the Civil War. What he meant by that was he was making reference to our tiny razor-thin margin. Remember, for about 90 of the first 100 days of this Congress, we literally had a one-vote margin. No one could have an injury. We had to have everybody here, and no one could break ranks. And now we have a 2 to 3 vote margin on any given day, and yet we have the most aggressive agenda that we pursued because that's what we promised the American people. So by God's grace, man, we got the big beautiful bill done, and much more ahead. Rescissions packages, more reconciliation packages on the way, codifying all the executive orders. We're up over 50 at this point. We're doing everything to deliver the America First agenda, and that is a 24-hour a day, 7-day operation. But the speaker's also in charge of the media, the fundraising, developing the policy agenda, and managing all the various caucuses and subgroups within the larger Republican conference. So it never ends. But I enjoy working with my colleagues, all of them, every single one of them here. They've been raised up for such a time as this. I believe that. And so what I'm trying to do every day is get everybody to their highest and best use for our conservative cause and for our country and for our Republican conference. Some of them have to be drug along sometimes, but it's part of the job. The speakership has evolved to be a very complex and complicated operation. In the age of social media, right? In the age of 24-hour news cycle, I mean, we're dealing with factors that are involved here that previous generations of congressional leaders just simply didn't have. But we're trying to figure that out, and we're paving the way. Somebody said the other day, "You guys you're making history. You're making history every day." And I said, "Man, I'm tired of making history. I just want normal Congress." But nobody knows what that looks like anymore.
Yeah, so your team might not like me for this, but I'm going to ram one more in here because we have the rescissions package that President Trump is pushing or say that leaked the other day. Don't know how much truth there is to it. That there might be another rescissions package coming through after that $9 billion one that you just passed through. Why is it like pulling teeth? And do you feel pretty good about moving forward with another rescissions package, hopefully to gut part of the Department of Education? Maybe you can give us some
Yeah.
insight on that too.
No, I'm I'm very anxious to do that. Look, it's not a secret. I've been saying for many months that we expect multiple rescissions packages. Russ Vought at Office of Management and Budget is doing a great job crunching the numbers, and we're trying to root out the fraud, waste, and abuse. Some of this is the Doge cuts that Elon was able to find when his team was working on all cylinders, and we got a lot of work to do, man. There's a lot of waste in the government. It's too large. It does too many things. It does almost nothing well. And so the Republican team is the one committed to reducing the size and scope of government, draining the swamp, making sure that government is more efficient and effective for the people. And that is an endless task. So the rescissions process, not to get too deep in the weeds of the procedure here, but that's a really effective tool that an administration and a Congress have when they are unified. And we have this rare moment in history. We have the White House, the Senate, and the House in Republican hands, and we're not going to waste it. So I'm anxiously awaiting the next package of requests that comes from the White House. We will process that as quickly as possible in the House, send it to the Senate, and keep it going. So there's some lower hanging fruit, and there's things we got to reach a little more for to get over the line. But you will see me fighting for it every day, and my colleagues are equally committed.
All right, Speaker Johnson, I know we went over time here. I appreciate your coming to the space and taking it head on. I mean, this was great. So really appreciate it. But sharing a stage with GuntherEagleman, I didn't expect to see that anytime soon. But
Hey,
Gunther,
thank you.
hey,
Thank you, Speaker
Brother,
Johnson.
we got to talk offline, man. You got to give me a little more grace, man. I remember my margin is so small. Okay,
I hear
if I
you.
was
I hear you.
a unified, a dictator, and I could just have my way, things would look very different. But remember, I got to drag people along on this. So cut me some slack,
How,
bro.
how about how about how about this? I'm supposed to head out there and have lunch with Tim Burchett.
Yeah.
So when we do, we'll grab you along.
Oh man, that'd be awesome. I'd love to do that. I'll tell Tim I got to get an invite. All
You
right,
got
brother.
it. Appreciate
See
it,
y'all soon.
Speaker. Speaker
Appreciate
Johnson,
you.
everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Speaker.
Well, didn't think that was going to happen anytime soon. Having the Speaker of the House on X Spaces, but it's hard enough to get a member of Congress on X Spaces, let alone the Speaker of the House. So we definitely appreciate him coming up here and wanted to give him a fair interview, not just attack him and ambush him and things. And that's why I appreciate the fact that Gunther was willing to come here and press him on the fact that you guys are going away for 6 weeks again. That's probably the biggest question I have seen so far as to what's going on in Congress. Like we have all these issues and they're going back to their districts for 6 weeks now. So yeah, Gunther, appreciate you asking that question, man.
You bet. Even though I did have about 15 other questions right here that I wanted to get after him on, but I respect.
Yeah,
his
well,
time.
it was like trying to. I mean, I held him for. He was supposed to leave at 1:15, so I held him for another 10 minutes. But anyway, yeah, just tried to give him a fair shake. Tried to sort of introduce him to the spaces environment here because we'll be able to get him back again. So, and that's what I'd like to do when there's actual like consequential legislation that's coming up. I think it'll be a good idea to be able to have the speaker come back into a space and discuss it. With ideally next time I'll bring up just people down in the audience. That's what I would like to do. If we had more time, that's what I would have done. But there was such limited time. But a brick suit. I see you're here. Still, luckily, you got your hand up. What's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to get out the question that I had ready. But so if you have a chance to follow up with the speaker before I can ask him this, it has to do. First of all, I wanted to congratulate him on his role in passing the One Big Beautiful Bill, an epic voting session that really went through only because of his tenacity in the face of Democratic opposition. He kept the vote open until it passed. Now we all know that there were provisions in that bill that were stripped out during the Byrd Rule review process in the Senate. And one of the ones I would like to see get back in there is the aspect of the Hearing Protection Act, which eliminates suppressors, or as people call them, silencers, from National Firearms Act regulations. And I really want to know if the House has a plan to get that legislation back in to some sort of package where it can be passed by the Senate as well, and then go into law. And I think there are a lot of 2A supporters out there who really didn't feel like they got everything they wanted out of the One Big Beautiful Bill, and this would go a long way towards satisfying them before the midterms.
Oh wait, I've been muted this entire time that I've been talking. Whatever. I still haven't gotten used to the space thing again, man. I'm gonna have to do this more. But anyway, yeah, no, it was, and like I said, a lot of not pretty much all of the questions except for the last one. I pulled out of the comment section down there, so I really appreciate everybody jumping in and asking questions. I would love to have been able to ask all of them. We were granted 10 minutes and we got 20 instead. So that was I appreciate that. I appreciate him coming by and doing that. So I have not been the nicest person to him in the past, and Gunther has probably been worse than I have. So he came in not with an open mic, live mics, could have said anything to the guy. Yeah.
My next question was going to be pretty rough.
But we have some other names up here as well. We have Liz Churchill up here as well. Liz, welcome to the stage. What's up?
Thanks so much for having me on, guys. Hi, Gunther. Nice to be on stage with you.
I appreciate you,
Yeah,
Liz.
Gunther is a godsend, just so that you know, audience. So if you're not following him, please do so. He is a wonderful, wonderful friend. And please follow MAGA Voice and Nick as well. You know, it's really great to have Speaker Johnson come in the way he did. And you know, if you follow me, like I haven't shit on him, you know, as much as I probably should have. You know, I'm not I'm not at Gunther level, that's for sure. But with saying that, I thought it was great that he actually explained the entire process where they go back to be with their constituents to do the, you know, the local level campaigning and whatever it is that they do. And so in essence, he basically said, you know, when people want him to stay in DC and not go back home, to the committed people that sent him to DC in the first place. It, you know, he's basically said they want us to be in two places at once. And, you know, I do think that he adequately explained himself. And, you know, Gunther, when you see him, I actually wanted to say that, you know, I appreciate that he has acknowledged the vaccine injured as well. So few have done that. And I did make a post a while back where he took the time to acknowledge somebody at a rally, a woman who had suffered greatly from this. And he did make a commitment to following through with, you know, what legal pathways they can pursue to, you know, have some type of, you know, compensation for these people. So with saying that, you know, I do think that it was nice to have him speak directly to the people because that's what's needed, right? These spaces, how many people are listening to this right now? A few thousand? That's huge. I guarantee you that that is more viewers than CNN right now. Bank on it.
Yeah, and so the thing that it's sort of interesting, uh, you have the House recessing, and I guess members say that they're going back to work in their districts. So it's whatever. The
Yeah.
ones that I'm pissed off about right now
Yep.
are the Senate. The Senate should not
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
recessing right now. The
Yeah.
Senate
Yeah.
needs to stay here and work. We just
Agreed.
lost
Agreed.
the U.S. attorney from New Jersey, Alina Habba,
Agree.
because the Senate wants to go home too. The Senate,
Yeah.
look,
Yeah.
senators don't. I'm just going to come out and say it. Senators, when they go back home, they're not going around doing, you know, work throughout the state. No, that's not what they're doing. They work
I
differently than
agree,
members
Nick.
of
They
Congress
should be
do.
back staying and fighting these communists because you have
Right.
to remember when President Trump, when they were in power, they had no problem charging him in every state, in every jurisdiction with 90 plus crimes. They intent on sending him to prison, right? Like this has to be stopped. And the only way to stop this is have these Senate members put an end to this lawfare because again, President Trump, you know, unfortunately, he's not going to be in power forever. So when the next communist steps up to the plate to take over, everyone is so fucked. So I get the frustration because it almost looks like they're trying to run the clock out on these things, right? And with
Yeah, the
2026
Senate
midterms
has
coming
the
up,
ability to
you know?
rein in the judicial tyranny, and they're choosing
Yeah,
not to do it.
that's the problem. And everybody sees it. That's the issue. And it's demoralizing for people to witness these district court judges that truly believe they have more power than the president of the United States of America, right? We all see it. We all see it in our feeds on this platform. And again, it stops when the Senate steps up to the plate. And again, it all goes back to these Republican senators that are Republicans in name only. They're truly Democrats. You never see the infiltration happen on the other side. And that's the fuckery that everyone is forced to deal with, unfortunately. And that's my opinion.
Yeah. So I want to jump to Shell real quick, and Shell, I got I have to give you a shout out here because people don't really know this story, but the first time that many of us ever heard Mike Johnson's name was when Lauren Boebert and Matt Gaetz were in one of her spaces that we were on there talking about it when we were trying to get McCarthy removed, and they're like, yeah, well, we like Mike Johnson, and I was like, who the hell was Mike Johnson? Nobody ever heard of Mike Johnson. And lo and behold, that's who Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert were, you know, backing to become Speaker of the House after we ousted McCarthy very publicly, and he went down in flames. So I mean, it was Jim Jordan at first, and then they switched to Mike Johnson, and Mike Johnson seemed to have been the only candidate that was going to be able to unify enough of the caucus to get the vote. So that all started in Shell's Spaces, and we appreciate you being here, Shell. What's up? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts, well, that was quite the space, right? I mean, we had 6 congressmen on those mics and breaking that news. Mike Johnson also was in attendance there. But, that was before he was elected. It was about 3 days before, right, Nick? But, my question would have been to Speaker Johnson would it it worries me that they don't understand how worried we are about the midterms. And I wish he would have kind of quelled those fears a little more than being, we're going to flip this and that and this state. I just wish that they understood that, some of these things really need to be done. I understand the recess still, right? I really get it. But man, I'm with you though. Once you said the Senate, I realized, yep, they do need to stay in there and get to work. But Congress actually has the power to remove some of these rogue judges, right? They have the power over the lower courts, everything underneath the Supreme Court. I really wish he would have explained that a little better as to why they haven't taken action on that. But other than that, haiku, dude, love the space. Thank you for bringing Mike Johnson in and answering some of these questions. A lot to like today, and I appreciate you, Nick.
I appreciate you, Shell, for sure. And I think that it's a good point to bring up that I, I want to go scorched earth in the midterms, right? The Democrats cheat, so yeah, I want to take illegals out of the census data to make it so that take out the brick suit. You've done the research into this. What does California lose between 2 and 4 seats if you take out the illegals that
Yeah.
populate the state? And those are just the illegals that we go ahead.
Right. Here's the problem we have, Nick. The last census did not differentiate between illegals and citizens. So the goal was in the next census is to have that differentiation made, so you do have actual numbers there. California would lose votes. Let me do a little brief recap here. The number of people in the House of Representatives is capped at 435. And so every state gets a proportion of those representatives based upon their state's population. So the higher your population, the more representatives you get. And that's why a state like California, which is a sanctuary state with a high number of illegals who live in it, they're still counted in the census, and that increases their representation. So while California would lose seats in the House of Representatives if illegal aliens were not counted in the census, so too would states like Florida and Texas. So it's not something that is only going to work against the Democrats. It'll also work against some of the red states. But the real reason that we should support taking illegal aliens out of representation isn't because it's politically expedient for us to do so. It's because it's the right thing to do. It's the citizens who are having their votes diluted by the presence of illegals that are really being disenfranchised. And for all the Democrats talk about disenfranchisement, this is a real issue. If you're in California and you're a United States citizen, you are being disenfranchised by illegal aliens. So that's why we need to win that battle going forward for the next census. I don't really, as much as I wish it could happen, Nick, I just don't think that it can happen by 26.
Hey, Jim Paff, I know I have you up on stage as well. You were a former Hill chief of staff, actually. And if you got to listen to any part of Mike Johnson's answers here, I want to know how satisfied you were with some of the answers he was giving. If you were around at the time, I don't know if you joined by that point.
No, I just joined. I wasn't
okay.
able
Well,
to
then
hear
that question doesn't really work very well on you, I guess. But anyway,
sorry. I'll take that question.
Yeah, I mean, there was sort of the procedure of talking about, okay, what does he actually do during the day? That's something that interests and me. What I would love to do at some point is like shadow him for a day and record what actually happens during the day, because the speaker, it seems like he's working, but you don't necessarily see everything the guy is doing. Can you sort of run that back a little bit, Jim? Like, what is his actual role? How has it changed over the past 20 years, and is it effective?
I wouldn't say necessarily that it's changed too much over the last 20 years. maybe over the last 40, but the Speaker of the House is like doing a million different things all at once. There's obviously working with how they're going to schedule the legislation that is there, making political decisions on what to prioritize and that sort of thing. But you'll also have a Speaker of the House, doing things like having participating in fundraisers with fellow members, talking to members on the Hill about where they're going to stand on certain legislation, and trying to whip votes. I mean, you don't just have the whip team doing that; the speaker will do that to some degree. And he has to manage the facility itself. I mean, one of the roles of the Speaker of the House is managing the physical facility of the House, and that takes time working with the sergeant of arms and stuff like that. There are real decisions like that that have to be made, but the whole role of the Speaker has changed dramatically since 1994, when Republicans took over the House for the first time in 40 years at that time. And you have the Speaker's role as far more significant than it used to be prior to that. One of the changes, massive changes that was made back then, was that the committee chairs were given less authority. There was a real argument about the fact that conservatives, in particular Republicans, were frustrated by for the two really key committee chairmen, the Ways and Means chairman and the Appropriations chairman, that really ran their own fiefdoms. All legislation started in their committees and worked through their committees before it got to the floor, and they changed the rules in the House so that the speaker has much more sway over it. And
Sure.
and,
And you mentioned
Yeah.
committees, Jim. Now, this is a question that I asked Mike Johnson, and so I want you to. I'm not going to reiterate his answer necessarily, but I pressed him on the fact that the investigation that's going on into both the auto pen and the cognitive decline of Joe Biden, that cover up, has been like we're not getting anywhere with it. It seems it's people just come in and they plead the fifth and then they leave, right? And there's nothing besides being able to go on Fox News and say, they pled the fifth again. Like, look, they're running away. Like that. That's not effective at the end of the day. We have to take another step here. So my thought, and I've said this publicly multiple times, I actually said to Johnson on the space itself, that we should probably grab somebody from Biden's inner circle, like a deputy chief or something, and immunize them and have them spill the beans, because they can't plead the fifth because they can't incriminate themselves. And they can just fill the plot against everybody else. Is that not a reasonable operation that you would undertake if you were a committee chair?
Well, any immunity deal has to be arranged with a prosecutor. The House does not have prosecutorial authority, so if they're going to bring someone in under a subpoena, they're still at risk of prosecution. And so if the DOJ hasn't already worked out a deal with them, then that can be really challenging. What the committee hearing and investigation process is designed to do is to gain real good information that can be used to see what actions need to be taken, whether related to legislation or similar things like that. But if they do find criminal activity in their investigations, they can make referrals to the Department of Justice to take action on that. And it's that potential for referral that allows, or that really makes it difficult sometimes to get people to whistleblow in the middle of a committee hearing, whether it's a public hearing or a private hearing. And they do both, obviously. And I think one of the big things that needs to happen in that process is the Speaker of the House ultimately has the authority to bring subpoenas out. The committees vote on wanting subpoenas and who they want, and they have to get the authorization of the Speaker, who technically delivers the subpoena. So that's, you need to be aggressive in that way. I mean, a lot of that responsibility lay with the Speaker of the House. He needs to, or she needs to, give authority to the committee chairman to get what they want without political ramifications. It seems Mike Johnson's been a little bit better than his recent predecessors, who have always been unwilling to, or typically unwilling to, to really force the hand of the people that they want to investigate, often for political purposes. Mike's been seemingly a little bit better at that, but ultimately, if you want to know if the real information is coming out in these hearings where it requires a subpoena, that's really up to the speaker. The committees can invite people to come, without a subpoena and not under oath anytime they want. But
Okay. So
that's the
it
challenge.
just seems like at this point we're so. I said this to Johnson as well. Like we're people just aren't reacting to this stuff the same way that they were before. It doesn't excite them anymore to hear people being brought in front of Congress, especially when it's behind closed doors, right? So I'm trying to figure out like where we need to apply pressure. Who do we need to put the pressure on to actually do something like this? I don't see any real reason that the Trump DOJ, would not grant immunity if somebody from Congress came to them, especially a committee chair, came to them and said, okay, we're going to subpoena this person in, and we want them to have immunity so that they can't plead the fifth on this situation, and we get to the bottom of the auto pen investigation. I don't really care. I want the top dogs to go to jail. I don't care if a low-level staffer that just happened to know everything and was, conspiring. I don't care if we have to let them out of jail, as long as other people go to jail and we know the entire story. That way, the American people know everything that happened. It looks like everybody fell down off the stage. That's fantastic. Okay. But anyway, yeah. So Kevin Smith, while we bring people back up here on stage, yeah, Kevin, what'd you think of the space while I bring people back up?
Remember when you said there was no glitches?
Yeah. See, that was my fault. I should never have said that.
Well, no, look,
Just like there's
look, I think it's great that Speaker Johnson came in. I think it's great that he answered, people's questions. They were a little bit different than normal. The big thing is you're right. I think everybody is over the mic drop moments from some of these committee hearings. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're funny as
Because
hell.
these people want to be influencers.
They really
That's
do.
what they want. They want their sound bites on TV. I'm so tired